This is so rad.
Do me a favor then. Come with me.
All right, here we go. Now I want you to give a big warm welcome to these guys. Where did you guys get to travel from?
We came out from New York City, but now living over in Santa Cruz area. Thank goodness.
Subjective perspective right here.
We have with us one of the most important filmmakers of our generation. My scholars, you have been absolutely diligent this entire semester. We have talked about Eduardo Chavez. We have looked at Haley Caesar. We know the work he's doing. But now, my scholars, I want to introduce you to the grandson of the great Cesar Chavez, as well as one of the most important filmmakers of our generation. My scholars, can we have a warm round of applause for our great guest lecturer, Eduardo Chavez. Eduardo, thank you for your patience, sir.
No worries, no worries.
And a lot of what we do, my scholars, is getting all the technological aspects set up. Because quite frankly, our class, Eduardo, as we talked about, is titled Media in Society. So really, this is, I think, the Appalachia of media in society. When you're able to connect with the world around you, utilizing media. My scholars, I hope you enjoy this special guest lecture because we have a lot to get into, especially in this day and age, with all of the injustice we have seen and all of the questions that really are pervasive in our life regarding how do we come together as one? Because in the end, my scholars, we are really brothers and sisters, are we not? My crew, I want to start off our guest lecture, giving you a little insight regarding Eduardo and what he's done in his life to be where he is. So my crew, as I had made that mention, towards the end we're going to have a nice question section. So the questions that you generated, keep them on lock because, and if there's any other questions that may sort of arise throughout this guest lecture, please jot them down. We would love to hear from you. My scholars, but I'd really like to start off with the basic rundown. Eduardo, my brother, where are you from, man? Where are you born and raised?
I was born and raised actually not too far from Menlo in a place called Hillsborough on the peninsula up in the Bay Area.
I gotta ask you, brother, you know, that movie, Hail Caesar, which is going to be one of the most important films of this generation, why did you get into that film, my brother? What was the reason Hail Caesar became your vision?
Well, I would say that it was kind of, before there was any idea to make a film to document like the personal journey that I went on or that I've been on, it was kind of something that I wanted to do for my personal. It was in a personal experience. I really wanted to go on myself to learn more about my grandfather's work, his activism, the legacy that he left behind, learn more about my roots. And so originally it was something that I wanted to do, something I thought I needed to do. And it slowly, step by step became an idea, and then it was a loose screenplay. And then the last step really was kind of before I was starting to embark on this journey was, we just need to document this and bring a cameraman and kind of see where this thing goes. And, about a month into the process, I wasn't really sure because I had never made a film before, nothing directed. The only stuff that I really done as far as this, in this career is like acting on camera stuff. So I'd never done anything behind the camera. So I wasn't really sure I was going to work out, but slowly as the process started developing and I started seeing on, rewatching scenes that I had lived through, I thought, I think we have something here. And then it's kind of just developed organically, and we've been working on it for about a year and a half, and probably about 80% done. And I'm really liking so far what I'm seeing.
Eduardo, we're in 2017, and I have to do a selfie with you if I could. Can I do a quick selfie with you? I gotta do a selfie with this man. Can I borrow your camera for a moment?
Yeah.
These streets are in Eduardo, so you're not going to see me, but right behind you, to your left, is a big LCD projector screen, so everybody's watching you on that. And I'm going to get a really nice little selfie with you right now, if I could, Ed. So I'm going to go up to LCD.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is 2017. You gotta get a couple different angles. You know what I'm saying? You never know which one's gonna work the best. And I just got a couple selfies with the LCD later. Yo, Eduardo, listen. Let's talk about what really pushed you to make that film, kiddo. You mentioned your granddad, Cesar Chavez. My scholars, you know, Cesar Chavez is somebody that you've learned about in your grade school days, especially in your history classes. We talk about not only the preeminent forerunner of being a humanitarian, but we talk about really what makes America America. And Eduardo, man, just curious, brother, is there any stories of your granddad that maybe the mainstream media doesn't know about, maybe from your dad?
Right, absolutely. I would say, funny thing is that, so my grandfather passed away in 1993. I was born in 91. So I really didn't have, you know, I was a year and a half old when he passed away, so I didn't have any personal experiences with him or any memories. So the film, a lot of the film is kind of me through my family and through other outlets learning about his life. So our film, I tell people that the cool thing about our film is that there's some stories in there that are kind of never before heard, kind of never before heard, never seen, never really talked about in history. They're more from a personal perspective.
And I wanted to know, my scholars, that Eduardo's dad is Cesar Chavez and his son. So it obviously goes generational. Cesar Chavez, Eduardo's dad, and Eduardo. So really, you know, the stories, and I know the family has probably told stories over time, but it's a little different. When you don't have that time to really spend with your family, it sort of takes you on a different trajectory in the way you start to know about your family. Which is why this film is so important.
It is, I agree. It's I think this film will show, you know, this is not so much a specific story, but what this film will show and it'll kind of uncover is how in the history of the world, you have these great humanitarians, these people that really lived by their word of helping a community, helping a people before they help themselves. And what this film will uncover that a lot of people don't, and I'm sure this is the same thing that was experienced by Gandhi's family or Martin Luther King Jr.'s family, is that they are so committed and so driven to a cause that in the end, sometimes it's the people that are closest to them that suffer the most. So essentially, the specific, you know, in my film that shows is how my father was really affected in a positive way and in a negative way by his father and his activism. You know, my dad told me a story that we caught on camera in the film, saying that it wasn't until it was in his later life that he realized that, you know, when you're 12, 13 years old, you don't care if your father is, you know, a famous actor, a rock star, or one of the great humanitarian leaders of the world. You just want your father to be there and to be your father. You don't care. You're just a kid. So it wasn't until my dad told me it wasn't until he got older in his later life that he realized that, you know, he was a little bitter at a young age because his father was organizing, and sometimes the family would be neglected because he had a greater mission. It was the mission of the community and the well-being of everyone else before even the ones closest to himself. So it wasn't until my dad got to his later life that he realized, you know, what I may have lost, the small things that I may have lost in a father, I gained a whole community, a whole movement of brothers and sisters. Everyone in the movement became connected to me, and we became closer in that sense. So, and obviously that's a maturity thing. That's tough for a 15-year-old to take in. You just want your dad there to, see your baseball games and that kind of thing. But I thought that was very interesting, and I thought that was something that I not many people could relate to. It's tough, it's tough thinking. You understand that your father's out there, making the world a better place, and he's contributing to humanity in a way that, I don't know, maybe only a few people have in the history of the world. But in the end, you just want that connection with your father.
And Eduardo, you're so right, brother. My scholars, I want us to remember that the ideas that Eduardo shares and Hail Caesar supersede the notion of just politics. So Hail Caesar is not a political piece that speaks about the world around us, dealing with the walls that we've heard about in recent months this past year, as we also start to analyze culture in America. And we start to look at what makes America America. My scholars, we have to recognize that it's the truth that you see that creates change. Caesar Chavez saw the difference. He saw the exploitation of our brothers and sisters. And he said, not on my watch, not on my watch. And he made that change. And I want you to realize, my scholars, if you want to make a change, it's in you already. It's just like if you ever watch those television shows, Survivor, or all those movies, those shows when they're on an island and they have to try to get the firewood. And they get a spark. And then they have to fan the flame. It doesn't happen overnight. But when you believe, my scholars, that's the light that will take you towards the end of where you want to be. Don't ever stop believing in your vision, because Eduardo has not stopped believing in his vision, which is why this movie is going to be touted as one of the most important movies of this generation, and we'll explain why. Eduardo, brother,
Yes.
Hail Caesar, my man, bring us back for a moment to the actual time that you were in the fields working, that you were in the vineyards.
Right.
My question is this, kiddo. What was it like performing that work? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is the work of our labor workers here in Cali?
A 59, a 60. I don't know, 6,000. I don't know. It really is the toughest thing that I really think it is the toughest job in the world for many reasons. The conditions aren't fantastic. The pay is as low as a pay as you can have in this country. It's manual labor. It's in every condition. You're inhaling pesticides that are put on the fruits and vegetables. It's, by many standards, it's really not a, quote unquote, safe work environment, but it is a job that needs to be done. And the heroes that do it every day in this country to pick our fruits and vegetables so we can eat, it's remarkable. It was really mind-blowing seeing being in that environment and seeing how tough that work is.
We were doing some work before. I apologize about that, sir. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, but like I was saying, it's really the hardest thing that I tell people a statistic that I looked up on like a census website, a government website, the median pay for pretty much every single occupation in the country. And I think the lowest one was a fast food worker, which is around $21,000 a year. A farm worker wasn't even on that list. And I'm pretty sure that the average salary for a farm worker is somewhere around $12,000 a year. And that's $12,000, but the hours and the how taxing it is on your body, the health conditions, everything about it is very hard earned money, and it's really not very much.
And it's exploitation, Eduardo. It's exploitation of labor.
And you gotta think about this, my scholars. Up until roughly 1842, where you're sitting right now was not America. This was the country of Mexico, okay? Through imperialistic endeavors, the American military took this land over. So Eduardo, I always think it's so mind-blowing, my brother, when we think about how men and women who once had their families living here are now essentially begging for cents on the dollar. When 100 years ago, I should say, yeah, roughly 100 years ago, 150, this was their land. How short the span of time is when we start to see those changes. But my scholars, don't ever forget this reality, that the work that our brothers and sisters are doing in the fields produce 80% upwards of the produce for America. So when we're thinking about the work that our brothers and sisters from Mexico are doing, this is absolutely hard physical labor. And it's something we have to think about as a community. As we hear Eduardo speak about his grandfather Caesar, and we hear about the idea of he sacrificed his family's time, Eduardo. He had to sacrifice in order for the bigger picture to come to fruition, to come to some place of continuity amongst humanity. Eduardo, my brother, go back a little bit in your life, if I could find, sir. I know a bit about you. We've talked before. We have a lot more to talk about, sir. But growing up, you were an athletic individual, and you got yourself into a sport that some of our students play here, Eduardo, golf. Any golfers in the classroom? I know we have a golf team here, Ed, and a lot of my students love the sport. But I just want to give you a little present to let our students know, my scholars, you're also looking at an individual who was a pro golfer. Okay? Eduardo, can you just give a little insight to your career as a golfer?
Yeah, sure. So I started playing. I started playing when I was about 10 years old. I used to go to Florida, or I still do, for the holidays. And when I was a kid, I used to go to Florida for the summer to visit my grandparents, my mom's parents in Miami. And me and my older brother, we got really sick of going to the beach. It was pretty much the beach every day, and I haven't been to the beach now in years. I got so sick of the beach when I was a kid. But we were just trying to find ways to pass time, pass the summer, the hot summer days when we were little kids. And my dad loved to play golf, and he just took us to the course one day, and we weren't very good. I remember the first time I played, I was terrible, but I just fell in love with the game, and I just kept playing more and more. By the time I used to play all sports, basketball, soccer, baseball. And by the time I was about 13, 14, I quit all the other sports, and I decided to focus all my time on golf. And I played all throughout high school competitively, all around the country, the world. And then I got a scholarship to play in college. And after I finished college, I moved back to Florida, and I turned professional, and I played for about a year and a half, 2 years as a pro golfer. And then there was a point where I kind of hit a crossroads whether I wanted to keep pursuing golf or maybe get into something else. And I made the decision that I was going to step away from the game. And it wasn't too long after that I found acting, and I found filmmaking. And I feel very lucky that I mean, people always say it's so important some people are lucky enough to find a passion at a young age. And I had golf from ages 10 to, 20, 22, 23. And it was maybe just about a 9-month, 8-month gap in between golf where I found something that I love just as much and that I chose to pursue right after. So I feel very lucky in that sense. But golf is still, I still enjoy playing. I play all the time. It's still a big part of my life. My older brother is a professional golfer still, and my dad is just obsessed with golf. Yeah.
No, Eduardo, your older brother's name, is it Max?
Sam.
I apologize. We talked about this on the show.
Yeah.
My scholars, I want you to realize, any of my sportsmen and women in here, there's a huge insight into it's the way that you start to build your professional life based on the way you conduct yourself out on the field. You know what I'm saying? The dedication, the belief in yourself. I just want to make that point. Any of my men and women here play sports of any discipline, just realize that that is a huge benefit to your professional life, okay? Structure, dedication that I mentioned. But now, Eduardo, gotta ask you, we have students from all over the world here, fine sir. We can go every continent, essentially, we have in this classroom. And it makes me so proud to stand before these individuals, to have a connection to their leg of this academic journey they're on. And Eduardo, for you to share your time right now, sir, I want you to realize that you are inspiring the minds of every one of these students. But I gotta ask you, brother, in more of a sociological context, if I could. You know, we talk with my scholars about responsibility in media. And we've talked about spin in media. We've mentioned, I won't mention certain journalists' names, but we've mentioned people that have a tendency to spin truth. And aside from Nellie Caesar, we're going to go back there. What do you feel, Eduardo, my brother, is the role of media in society? Does media have a responsibility to the way we think as humans? What is the role of media, my brother, within society from your perspective?
I mean, I think the media does have a great responsibility that they just completely fail at in telling the truth in stories. But the way that I see media is that the media is so powerful, and the media really affects and can really sway our brains as humans to think a certain way. So the way that I see the media is that I think it's our job as people to really challenge the media in any way that we can. And when we see a story, whether it's on the news, no matter what news outlet it's coming from, I think it's our responsibility to challenge that story, to critically think and formulate our own opinions. The media is, in a sense, the media is the media outlets. They show what they want to show, and it's always a very skewed perspective. So I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we take everything at face value that the media shows. So as critical thinkers, what we need to do is, the way I see it, is to challenge everything we see and to formulate our own thoughts and our own opinions and values.
Eduardo, my brother, how should these students challenge media, my brother? How should they go about it? You've done it through film. Your granddad's done it through his social platform. What would you advise every one of these students if they want to challenge media? Does it have to be an intense challenge? Can it be subtle? What are some methods of challenge, my brother?
It can be anything from just for personal growth and for personal knowledge, that if you see a news story, to do your own research, to get out there in the field where this is happening and see with your own eyes. News cameras will go to this, let's say, where there's a big news story, and they'll roll cameras for 3 hours and you see a news clip that's about 40 seconds long. So, anything as small as just getting out in the world and talking to people that are experiencing whatever the media is covering, or anything as much as big as if you see something in society that you want to challenge, to speak up about it and to let your voice be heard, because in a sense that's all we have. We have our voice and our minds and our critical thinking. So anything, the spectrum is really wide, and it could be anything as small as just for your own personal knowledge, or for the betterment of a community or society, to speak up on anything that you see wrong in our world.
Eduardo, Hail to Caesar, my friend. First off, when is this dropping for everybody to see, if it has not dropped yet? screening of it on our campus. And if you can't make it, obviously, you know, you're at your right now. You have laser?
Yes, yeah.
So if anybody from SoCal in here? Do I have any of my SoCals in here? We have a couple SoCals in here. Eduardo, I love it. That's why I love being with my students. They're from all over the world. Their perspectives are incredible. Eduardo, they inspire me in there in this class. Just so you know, it's crazy. But I just want to ask you then, for Harry Caesar, what have you learned from that process, that media process? And actually being immersed in the acting portion of it. What have you learned from this film?
I've learned so many things on a personal level, as well as just on a technical level of how to make a film. I would say the first thing that I've learned is patience. Patience is probably the most, after making this film and learning, so patience is probably the most, like, in my opinion, the most important thing you can have when you're doing anything creatively. If you have a vision that, you know, when I started this film, I had the vision of making it and everything was perfect. And on every step of the way, like clockwork, it would just take a 180 and go the other way. And you just have to be patient enough to kind of, you know, work through all of the mishaps. And we've had so many of them, and it's so common to have all those mishaps. And, you know, if you stick it out on the back end, it's going to pay off a lot. And I think that's what's happened. So I'm very excited, and very excited, as well as very tired from making this film. But I hope that when I share it with the world, the country, that they see what we were trying to get at.
Eduardo said it right. You're going to think that you have it all set one day. You know what I'm saying? Everything's chill. And then like a 180, it just switches up on you. And you say, oh my goodness, I hadn't figured out how to go out. But you don't forget that that's part of your journey. And it's what defines our character. It's what truly creates the greatness in us.
Absolutely. The process is way, it's way more of, it's a way better experience than the result. Most people see the result of something and think that's like the culmination of all of hard work, and that's like a great feeling, but really it's the process. If you can't fall in love with the process and the journey, the ups and the downs, then, you know, in my opinion, I don't think the back end will be as rewarding.
Eduardo, I'm going to step on back, and I'm going to get a couple students on up. My scholars, please feel free. Any of y'all who have a question or so and would like to connect with Eduardo, it would be absolutely historic for you to have that time to connect with Mr. Eduardo Chavez. I'm going to get onto the back. Please feel free to jump on up. Who'd ever like to take it first? Jeremiah Bacon, fine sir. Eduardo, one of our all-stars, walking on up. This is Jeremiah.
What's up, man? How's it going?
So, hi, my name is Jeremiah. I would like to ask, so with your movie that's going to be coming out soon, if I were to watch it, who's your target demographic, like who you're looking like to impact, and also what is one of the biggest takeaways you want your viewers to get?
Two good questions. I would say the target audience is tough with films, because you, as a filmmaker, you have a target audience, and then it could be a totally different demographic that like takes it and runs with it. But I would say for us, the target audience is definitely millennials, young people. So like me, you know, yourself. And the biggest takeaway that I would want my audience to take away from the film is that it only takes one step forward in the right direction to think of a community before yourself, to really get the ball rolling, and to live a conscious life, and to want to help the betterment of society. And I'm definitely not preaching in my film that everybody needs to, you know, drop their hopes and dreams to be an activist, but it's really my grandfather co-founded the United Farm Workers with a woman named Dolores Huerta, and she has a quote that says, "Every person is a potential activist. Every moment is an opportunity to be an activist, and it doesn't need to be that we sacrifice our lives for a cause, but it's the small things. It's speaking up about the injustices we see in the world, and it's just being a conscious human being that thinks of a community before themselves." So that's really the main message. And there's a lot of layers in the film, but really it's on a simpler level. It's kind of just for young people to realize that it only takes one step, and that step can be in any direction, any outlet that you want as a young person. It's a small step, but it gets the ball rolling. And with that would be my answer to that. Good question.
Sorry, Bobby. You're doing work outside, Lord. I'm so sorry. I'm so annoying.
Thank you for your time.
Sir, thank you, sir. You're going to put that question. You are the Lord and please, sir. Eduardo, first off, they're doing some construction on the roof above us.
No worries.
I apologize about that,
Yeah,
sir.
no worries.
Another one of our all-stars. This is Alan.
Hey, I'm Alan. So I just watched Dolores working on this movie for another class. I was just wondering if you already watched it.
Yeah, I did. I actually went to it premiered at Sundance Film Festival in about almost January 2017. So I went there to the premiere to see it. It was really cool. It was a
I was just wondering what's your idea.
Because I was, to be honest, I didn't know about her until I watched the movie, so I was just wondering why her name is not as famous as her grandfather. Great question.
I mean, the male-dominated society saw a woman as a threat, and that this wasn't her place. And so I would say that's the main reason. And it's not something I can really answer that I really know exactly why she isn't as known as my grandfather. But they co-founded the farm worker movement together. There were two totally different styles of people in their activism. My grandfather was more mild-mannered. He wasn't like super rah-rah. He wasn't like a very bold speaker. She was kind of more she was like a bulldog, and really got what she wanted, and provoked change in society. But I thought the movie was great. And if you remember seeing the movie, they talked a lot about her family and her kids, how they kind of suffered from her being out in the streets and being an activist for a community. So it's very similar to my film in that sense.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
We have a round of applause for that question. My scholars, we have time for about another question. If anyone would like to get one more question in, we do have time for one more. If there's any other questions out there, Jesse, please come on up, sir. Thank you. Eduardo, we have one more question, and I know we've had you on for almost an hour, sir, and I want to be very respectful of your time. And as our students have about 10 minutes before I let them out for their next class. This is another one of our all-stars. This is Jesse. Eduardo, I'll give you Jesse.
Hi, I'm Jesse. I just wanted to ask you a question about your professional golf career. I know it takes a lot of dedication and hard work to reach that level of success. At what point did you realize that's what you wanted to do, and then at what point did you realize that you wanted to give it up and pursue something else?
Yeah, good question. I would say I started playing at 10. That's the first time I picked up a club. It was pretty soon after that I thought, I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but that around maybe 12 years old, when I realized like, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to make this, a career. So it was pretty young, but it was something I just really like fell in love with it fast. I mean, you hear a lot of people with acting the same way, musicians, you kind of, it's like the first time you kind of get that rush of competing or performing, it's something that you know you want to do forever. And then when I would say on the second part of the question was, it was probably maybe like a year and a half, 2 years into my pro career when I realized that there was maybe some other things that I wanted to do and explore in my life, acting being one of them. And it was just kind of like this. I stopped playing golf and started doing filmmaking, acting, and I got that same rush from that I did from golf, and I kind of just ran with it. Golf isn't like, it's not like I'm not bitter about golf. I still love it so much. I just didn't really want to pursue it as a career competitively anymore. But I still I play a lot. I play more than I should still, so I still love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackson.
I do have to come to a close, and Eduardo, I think this is just the first of a couple of really cool connections we're going to have in the classroom. I hope you had a really nice time, my brother, because quite frankly, as I look around to my class, we had an incredible time. My scholars, as we've given an outro to Eduardo Chavez, can we have a warm round of applause, please, for Eduardo Chavez? Here at College. And I just want to reiterate, my crew, that when you think about media and society, this is the epitome of media and society. When you can connect to the world around you, utilizing different methods, different platforms of technology, so that you can bring people into your life to build a greater perspective, that's really what the Appalachia of success really amounts to. And when I say Appalachia, my scholars, it's the tip-top of success, okay? I want you to recognize that you have been absolutely not just outstanding students, but incredible humans. And this is why Eduardo Chavez wanted to share a bit of his time with you all today. Obviously, Eduardo and I know each other outside of the classroom, but I want you to recognize that this is valuable time that Eduardo was sharing, and I truly hope that it has inspired your life. Ladies and gentlemen, as I know I have to get you going, I want to give one more round of applause to our incredible guest lecturer this afternoon, Eduardo Chavez. Could you please help me?
Eduardo?
Can I say one last thing?
Yes, sir.
You guys, to the class, you have a great professor here. This guy's the best. He really cares. So that's you don't see that every day. So just
You
wanted
just made my day, sir. Thank you, Eduardo. I'll give you that $50 later on. You got it? My son.
Can we have a warm round of